Perfect. It says you are live on YouTube. Wow, with a lot of lovely people over here. Let me quickly share my screen. Ta-da. This is my screen. I hope you can see my screen. Wow, perfect. So we have PowerPoint slide. Okay, I hope I'm wonderful. Wonderful. It's 17th of November, the month of November. We have a lot of surprises happening this month. Some great and exciting news we have. And we have a wonderful lady joining with us from Canada, Miss Claudia. I'm just going to introduce to you her. And welcome to Microsoft Saudi Arabia, Microsoft Excel Power Platform Meetup Saudi Arabia. One place in finance solution where we share, connect, learn from each other. And I'm the organizer, your host, Farah Sheikh from excelexciting.com. So if you haven't known me, that I'm the founder of excelexciting.com, and I'm a Microsoft certified trainer, Microsoft innovative educator, and Office master, YouTuber, and I run my meetups. And my mission is with my friends over here to give you the awesome solution where you can be the superhero at your workplace. And it's lovely to have you all over here. And today I have an exciting news to share with all of you. And I like to thank everybody, today. And the news is that I'm in Microsoft Most Valuable Professional now. I'm an MVP. So this month I have received the award from Microsoft for the contributions and what we are doing for the community. And I'm an MVP. So Farah Sheikh is an MVP now. And thank you very much, Celia, Oz, Sonia, Leila, John, Christian, Claudia, Gasper, I'm Ajay, Anand, Rahim, Guy Hankin, Lily, my friend Puriana, Nilesh, Alan Murray, May Hadri, Mark, Elgar, Rajendra Singh, Mohammed Khalil, Christian from Romania, who does in Romania meetup, Celia, she does the meetups in Toronto, Canada, Nabil Murad, Jorgen, Nabil Saif, Faisal Khaldi. And I have, if I sit now, I'm going to give all the names. So all my friends, thank you very, very much for all your support and helping me always being there with my dream, always supporting me there, giving me backup. Yes, you can do it. This is possible. And the community as well, because without your support, this wouldn't be possible also. Let's talk today about the lovely lady who's over here, Miss Claudia. Wow, Miss Claudia is a Microsoft certified Excel expert. She's an Excel expert. So feel free to ask anything about Excel to her. Okay. And I'll be looking it in the chat window and she's also going to check out your questions also. And she has been training business professionals and technicals, with the soft skill soft skills over the last 20 years. And she designs and she delivers various Microsoft Office applications. And the most interesting thing I like about Claudia, is that she is into aviation specific softwares, where she worked in aviation. So I would love to hear more from Claudia, that I've let her speak about it. And I would be really interested to know what she was doing in the aviation, because I'm a logistics guy. So I'm very much interested in knowing about the aviation. So just before we start up, so this was our past meetup. So if you would like to go and check the meetups, please feel free to scan this code, or you can just visit anytime Excel Exciting on my YouTube channel, and you'll find the playlist and you'll find all these amazing speakers sessions. And now we'll be adding Claudia also to the list. And what do we have upcoming sessions? We have, oh, oops, I didn't manage to change it. Sorry. Okay, so Vivek is having his session. I really missed it out. I'm really sorry about it. But Vivek is having a session on 24th of December. Let's fix it now. Let me quickly fix it. On 24th Perfect. So it happens. It happens because I'm really excited that I'm an MVP now. So I missed it out. So 24th of November, we are having Vivek Bakshi, who is not going to talk about what's up with dynamic arrays, but he's going to talk about Excel formulas versus Power Apps. I'm really sorry I missed this out. I'm so excited. So now it's done. Yeah. So Vivek is going to come and talk about Excel formula versus Power Apps. So he's going to compare the Power Apps formula with Excel and how we can use those same formulas. And it will be really interesting to see what he has also. And if you haven't used Power Apps, it's a great, powerful tool. I would really encourage you guys to come and join the session, and you would really learn something really new about the application. Then we have Brandon, who will be speaking on 12th of December about custom data and what's next, so that would be really nice to hear from him. And then we are planning for a special event on 18 Jan. Tentatively, it will be on 18 Jan. So let's hope for that. And you can always scan the QR code, and that will direct you to the meetup page, and you can always see the upcoming events. And make sure that you are registered on the meetup so you can get the news as early as possible. And we are looking for some of our superheroes over here in the community. I know there are already a lot of participants over here, some superheroes, and we are looking for them. Please come forward and please share your knowledge and help the community to grow. You can talk about anything about Microsoft Office, Power Platform, Azure, Power Apps, anything. We would really love to hear from you. And you can always write back to me on excelexciting@outlook.com. And just to make sure that this session is right now live streaming, and the recording will be available on the YouTube /Excel Exciting. So you can always find it over there. Just to make sure that just follow the housekeeping, just quick housekeeping, just keep your mic muted. And if you're having any questions, feel free to drop it in the chat by mentioning it Q. So it will be very easy for the presenter to find it out for your question. And if you have anything, please raise up your hand and feel free to speak. And we'll be having a dedicated time for Q&A, and you can always ask your questions over there. Now I'm leaving the floor to my friend, Miss Claudia, so she can introduce also herself in more in detail, and she can show us what she has today for this amazing meetup. Really excited. Excel dynamic arrays. Wow. Over to you, Claudia.
All right. Thank you very much, Faraz. All right, so I'm going to share my screen just so you can see what I'm about and what we'll be talking about today. Faraz did a pretty good intro, so I don't know if there's much more to add. I do lots of business skills training, and that includes Excel and other office applications. I also do course design for pretty much any business skill topic that I'm qualified to teach. But I also, as he mentioned, I wasn't going to mention this, but he did, so he brought it up. So I'll talk about this. I was in aviation for most of my career, and that included some aspects of logistics, but mostly cargo load planning, reservation software, check-in software, and ticketing software. So it's not as complicated as it seems. But it was fun. It was like the best 17 years of my career. So I did enjoy that. But I've kind of changed direction, and I'm focusing on business skills pretty much anywhere that can be applied. And where I learned Excel actually was in the aviation business. It was never my intention to become an Excel expert. As it turned out, at that point in my career, I was in human resources, and I had an assistant who was really very good at creating Excel formulas. And I was kind of jealous of how quickly he was able to get things that I asked him to do done. And I observed, and he taught me a lot. And I was just fascinated. And that's where my fascination with Excel began a little over 20 years ago. So the thing I like most about Excel is formulas. And so with this shift to dynamic arrays and how closely it's linked to Excel formulas, of course, I'm still pretty fascinated by it. So today, that's what we'll be focusing on. And today I'm really acting more as a facilitator. Most of you here, I recognize your names from previous meetups, so you're already experts. I'm just going to be sharing things that I've found useful or reminders for some of you. Some of you, it may be a new application to a principle you already know, but maybe it might also give you an idea of how you could solve some other problem. So here are the 4 main things I'll be covering today. We'll be going through how I extract non-adjacent columns or rows of an array. I'm sure most of you have your method. There's actually more than one way of doing this now in dynamic arrays. Maybe you know both and maybe you know just one. We'll also be figuring out how to create a dynamic chart, that is linking a chart to the dynamic source instead of a static source, and doing conditional formatting using a dynamic data set. And this one is pretty easy, how to display the last n values from a dynamic data set. But I figured, hey, if we have someone here who isn't an Excel expert or who is not yet, who hasn't yet changed to dynamic arrays, they'll get to see really quickly how easy it is to do something that before you'd need maybe 3 or 4 steps to do. Just one thing to note, if you think my screen is too small, like if the display is too small, some of you already know this, you can just go to View Options, that's here at the top of your screen, click on Zoom Ratio, and instead of doing Fit to Window, then you'll want to click on 100%, then you'll see it at the same size that I'm looking at. Or if you need something slightly bigger, you can go to 150, 200, or 300. All right, that's just a little housekeeping. So let's jump in. Please, let's keep it interactive because, like I said, I highly doubt I'll be teaching most of you anything. I'm just facilitating. All right, so let me just bring up my worksheet here. And that would be this one. All right. Let me minimize this panel. So. All right. All right. So what I have here is this, on the left is this list. Let's say we have this breakfast and lunch, maybe restaurant or a coffee shop. And the items that are for sale, the category that we consider them to be in, and the price for each item. Let's remove this one just to demonstrate something. So let me take the toast out. All right, so this is already an Excel table. The name of the table is menu. And most of you know how this works because the table can expand or contract. That makes it so much easier for us to work with. Let's say that at the end of the day, we want the cashier or whomever, someone, to tally by item and quantity the total sales. Well, this is fairly easy in dynamic arrays because we can just use, we can just grab the values here using one of our dynamic functions and add the quantity and write a formula to calculate the sales. So let's jump in and do that. There are a couple of ways to do this. The way that I think I found that was most efficient was we could use filter because this entire data set is considered an array. So we could filter what we do want. And in this case, we only want the first column. So I know some people like to do filter of filter. If there are no real conditions, we don't have to do filter of filter, obviously. We can just do the array. Of course, the name of the array, since it's a table, it's called menu. I'll just use that as my array name. And I only want to include column 1. My favorite and quickest way of doing this is to use an array constant. So I would do, let's close this. Yeah, so I would just use an array constant and say 1 for true. So the first column, I do want that displayed. So I use the number 1 for yes. I use 0 for no. I don't want the second column and I don't want the third column. All right, close my curly brackets here and close parentheses. And of course, that gives me the items on this list. You'll notice that this is here. The reason I did this, it's just semantics. I wanted to do a conditional formatting to say, this must have a value because we don't want the cashier, let's assume it's the cashier that'll be doing this. We don't want the cashier forgetting to enter a value in quantity. All right, so this is just a visual reminder or alert that you need to put something in this column. The way we did this conditional formatting, in case anyone wanted to know, let's just go into manage rules so you can see it. All right, so what we did, because we wanted 2 conditions to be satisfied. If there's a value in column F, but no value in column E, so 2 conditions must be true. So if E5, that's the first one in the range, if E5 is blank and F5 is not empty, then we format this with this color fill. Notice that we used a mix reference here. All right, so we keep column E fixed, but of course we want the row to be relative, and the same here for F. All right, so that's just an aside. All right, so let's say these are the items and we want to calculate the sales. How dynamic array changes things is, of course, it minimizes the need to copy and paste formulas because, of course, now we can select use the entire array in our formula. So the best dynamic array I see here that we could use is probably XLOOKUP. Why not? You know, XLOOKUP just makes it so much easier. I don't have to think, is this vertical? Is this horizontal? I just highlight the one that I want, the ranges that I want, and I'm good. So now lookup value, we can highlight the entire array here, which, as you notice, the syntax becomes F5 hash. The hash means the entire spill, all right? And the lookup array, we want it to look up here. So of course, we do have the table name. We want it to look up in this column. So the item name. And where do we want it to return from is the price. All right, let's end it here with just the required arguments. So we have the individual price of each one, but we're going to want to make this a product of whatever the quantity is. So let's say we sold 15 eggs. We want this to be multiplied by the number 15, which would be the value here. But of course, since we used F5 and the hash, the spill, so we want this to go all the way down here. Let's make it all the way to the end. Yeah, all right. So the reason it didn't do that is because, of course, I'm using F5 spill. So let's just make it for this one. All right. So that works. And each time that we add something here, it's going to multiply appropriately. Here's a problem. What if we didn't use F5 and spill? Because we could have added items here, which would mean that they're going to, we'll need these other 3 rows. And then the problem would be that this only went up to row 15. So let's say we did F5 and going all the way down to row 18. And then we change this one to 18 also. What am I doing wrong? Let's see. Let's start over. It always helps if someone can see what I'm doing wrong, because sometimes to debug formulas. All right, so here's our lookup value. We're looking up this one. Oh, this is what it was. Got it. Lookup array is here. Item name is here. And the return array will, of course, be the menu again and the price. And we want to multiply this by whatever values here. All right. So this is great, except that we have these really ugly NAs here. Personally, I don't like to see errors in my worksheets. So you'll want to try to get rid of anything here. Just because it's blank, of course, it's saying, well, there's no value, so we get an error. The first inclination might be to say, okay, what if I use the if not found? Well, that won't solve it, because then we change it from NA to value. So that's not really what we want. So sometimes we still do need to rely on the old formulas. So I know that the if not found in XLOOKUP was meant to kind of take care of some of these when the values aren't located in the source. But sometimes you just need a formula for what it's for, which is why we don't throw away things like index match, right? So if this value results in an error, then we can do this. All right, and that fixes that. So let's say we just fill in some values here, because now we want to create a chart for the end of the day, you know, to see what our sales were like. So let's just fill in some values here. Did someone have a question? Mohammed? No? Okay. All right, so now we want to create, so we have this alert here. Did we sell any coffee or didn't we? All right, yes, we did. Let's say we sold 25 cups of coffee. So now we want to create a chart here. This is great because if we can create a chart to say, okay, how many items and sales? So the usual quick way to create a chart, Alt F1, we create a default chart here. Let's just slide over to the right. All right, and this looks great-ish. The problem is that if we add that one item, most of you already know this problem. If we added one item here to our source, this is a table. So let's say it's $1 for toast, and let's say we consider this a side. It does add to today's sales because this is coming from a table, but it doesn't add to the chart. So the chart is not dynamic. The chart is linked to a static source. And the reason for that, we can look at the chart design, go to select data, and we see that the data range is locked here. And unfortunately, Excel doesn't like, or at this time, doesn't allow us to link charts using the spill range operator, that hash sign. We have to link it to a range. Fortunately, the named ranges are allowed to be linked to the spill ranges. So we were kind of going at it sideways. So let's create a named range that's linked to the dynamic set, and then we can use that as the data range for our chart. So let's start over. Let's get rid of this item that was added to the table after, and let's create a named range. So let's say we want one for the items. So let's call it the item spill. All right, and we'll say here and use this syntax item. That's the spill range operator. All right, and for our sales, we want another name. Let's call that the sale spill. All right, and that's going to be G5 pound. All right, let's see if this works. So now we need to link the chart to that dynamic named range. So we go back to our chart design, select data, and now we want to edit the range of each series. So this is the one on the vertical axis. So this would be the price. So we go to edit, and we just need to get rid of here. We should keep the worksheet name. So don't delete the worksheet name and that exclamation mark that's needed. And we can hit F3. This is for the sales. So we double click and OK. And we do the same for the items on the horizontal axis. Edit. Get rid of that fixed reference here, F3. And that's the item spill. All right. So now is the moment of truth. Let's add toast. And let's say toast is $1. Oh, I didn't need that extra item here. And let's say we sold 100. Ah, there it is. So that's how we get that done. Of course, we do want our chart to look a little tidier. Maybe we could sort by the sales values. So let's use the sort by in this case. So we have this array. And remember, we're filtering this. It's really the menu, so the original menu table. So we're sorting by the third item. Actually, let me see what happens here. Hold on. Yeah, for sorting this, I think we'd need to create another table that's that sorts these items on its own and then link that to the chart. That would make more sense. All right. So let's just walk through another little trick that I like to point out to folks who are just getting used to dynamic arrays. Most of you know that to do like a moving average, we need this. We have this data analysis add-in, and we can get that done, which is great, except that it does require that add-in, and also some people would prefer to use the offset function. Now, the offset function works just fine. In fact, that's what we're going to use here, but we can do this literally in like one step because of dynamic arrays. So of course, with offset, we can use an item as a reference. So let's use the first, because here what we want to do is, since this list will constantly be updating as the months progress, we'll be adding values to the data set. Then we want to always just be focusing on the last 3 entries. So we want to start somewhere that won't change. So let's start with the item, and let's use the count A to figure out how many items are in the list, okay? But now we want to get the last 3. So by using count A, Excel stops here. So we want to go back 3. So let's minus 3 here. And we want to stay in the same column. So 0, no movement on the columns. We want a height of 3. And let's say a width of 2 because we want to extract both. With non-dynamic arrays, we wouldn't have been able to just enter. Once the values here are greater than 1, once the values on the last 2 arguments are greater than 1, then we'd end up having to do a CSE. So we enter Control Shift and Enter at the same time. But now we just do this one here. So let's see why we got a ref. What happened here? Invalid cell reference. Which one did I reference? Okay. I think it might have been here.
Excuse me, maybe it's
yeah.
better
Is someone
to
wanting to jump in? Let me know.
It's just hi Claudia, it's Ilkar. I think here we must use.
Oh, is it Ilgar? I'm not hearing you, Ilgar. Is anyone else hearing Ilgar?
Yeah, we can hear you, Ilkar.
Okay, I think. Do you hear me?
Can you type Ilgar? Because I'm not hearing you. Is anyone else hearing?
Yes, I can hear Ilkar. Can you hear?
Okay. Oh, maybe it's my internet. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, he was mentioning about the reference, Claudia.
Yeah.
From the A1 cell, he's mentioning.
Yeah. So is it the first one?
I think you can't see your screen. Maybe you can share the screen.
Yeah, let me share the screen. I'm sorry, I stopped sharing. Yeah, sorry. Okay.
He's mentioning to use count A.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't use count A. I thought that's what I. Thank you so much, Ilgar. Thank you. That's why we need each other. All right. So this is what happens. And now if I update to add October, of course, that shows up here. So this certainly takes a lot of the pain out of learning, because most people figure that once they start getting into array formulas, they're like, yeah, I never meant to get so deep into Excel. I just want Excel to solve, this simple problem I'm having. And this is a fairly common task that people want. So those of you who are trainers, you'll find it easier to train your learners how to do some of these more complex or intermediate tasks in Excel. And I feel like this will make it so much easier. Faraz and I were talking earlier before we started today about being able to compare what the environment was like before dynamic arrays, so that you can really show to a student what the difference is, how much simpler they have it, and that it wasn't like this all along. Or for some people who wanted to learn Excel or attempted to before, but it was so difficult, this is something that we can use to help them to see that, okay, it's much more simplified. It's so much easier to work with. Of these two kind of tasks that we did so far, was anyone able to offer any alternative ways of accomplishing any of these? So here, just a reminder for those who might have joined late. Here we used the filter function so that we could make the list here, or the source of the chart, dynamic, because of course the chart can only be linked to a range, and we can't enter, for now anyway. I think that might change. For now, we can't use the spill range operator syntax for charts. Was anyone able to offer any alternative method instead of using this particular type of formula to get this done? Just throwing that out there.
You can feel free to unmute yourself also, and you can mention it, and even you can write it in the
I think
chat.
this must be my internet. Hold on, because if everyone else is hearing. All right, so let me stop sharing so I can reduce my bandwidth.
I think offset function, Elgar mentioned about the offset function. Are you able to hear me, Claudia?
Can we use the chat?
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
lagging. Yeah,
Are you
because I'm
able to hear
lagging
me?
a little bit. I'm hearing what you're saying, but it's lagging
Okay,
quite heavily.
no problem.
Yeah,
No problem.
thank you.
I think we can use the chat. No problem. Elgar has already mentioned something about the chat in function. The offset function is referring to offset function.
Yeah.
I would be referring to something like index function.
Yes.
Maybe an index can really help us. Maybe somebody
Yes.
other of our friends, they have some idea, then they can also
Right.
chat.
I did figure, I'm happy you mentioned index because I did think of that. I'm like, I'm sure someone here might want to use the index function. So you might go with index, use the menu if you just wanted to pull one out. So let's say, since you want everything in the row, but you might want only the first column. And that would do pretty much the same thing as the filter. So yeah.
Index is the one.
Yeah, index is one of those functions that's not going away. It does, it's very versatile, but so few people really understand how it works. Like, just everyday people. I don't mean experts like yourselves, of course.
Yeah. I really remember Alan doing a whole session on index. Alan Murray, he was doing index. The entire session he did it on index. There's one more in the chat. They have mentioned I would have used filter table and then the column name. Works if you have only one column. Okay.
Yeah.
That is also a good one. Yeah.
Right. So so I do like using
the index.
Yeah, I do like using filter, and I love the fact that, just by using the array constants, you can pick out what you want to show and what you don't want to show. Like that's once I discovered that, I was like, oh yeah, that makes it so much easier, because sometimes, there are columns non-adjacent columns that you want to display, and it's not really based on the value that you're filtering. You just want to exclude an entire column or two. So I like that.
And
is there any
one more idea I have, like you can straight away reference the column if you're using a column, or you can just straight away reference the column to get the items without any kind of a formula. Like if you just go and column, the entire column, you can just select.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Well, this, of course, I was tempted to do a demo with and without tables, because, of course, without a table, if this isn't a table, then, you need to figure out how to do that, because this is a table. So it makes it easier. You can just make reference to tables. And I think that's the other thing. People get terrified of using tables for some reason. Students tend to get terrified of using tables. But I find that tables were kind of a preview to dynamic arrays for all these years, because many of the ideas are the same, like using the implicit operator, the at symbol. That's like, a precursor. But I really was curious to find this out. Is there anyone here that's not using dynamic arrays? I was curious about that. Like, don't be shy.
You're not going to kill anybody.
Just maybe by a show of hands, or just typing in the chat. Is there anyone who hasn't yet made the switch?
Sadly, it didn't work. Okay, so my friends, if you don't have dynamic arrays and you're on your system, what you can do is that you can go on Excel Online, and you can go and
all right, so we have a few people responding in the chat. So my question is, like, I will admit, I recently made the switch only earlier this year, because I liked, I was on 2019. I was on Excel 2019, and it had most of the functions that I really used regularly. and then those that I needed, like maybe XLOOKUP, I just needed to demonstrate something, I would use Excel Online. Does anyone use Excel Online to solve any of these problems? Yeah, Ilgar. Okay. Privacy concerns. Interesting. Yeah, I keep, now that I have Excel 365, I'm not using Excel Online as much, but I keep reading stuff where people are saying, you know, it's now getting more robust, and I'm not sure about privacy, robust in terms of privacy, but they're talking in terms of functionality, that they're really making it almost seamless, almost the same as Excel 365. So that's pretty exciting. Of course, we still have to consider backward compatibility. If you're sharing files with people who don't have 365, then there's really little point in using it. But if you just want to test out certain or solve certain problems, then that's a really great solution that you can offer. If Excel training is what you do, you can offer that solution to some of your students. Eric mentioned that he does need to use tables and dynamic arrays better. Like, I feel you, Eric. I know how you feel, because I just needed to settle down to understand dynamic arrays. But once you get there, you'll find that for those functions that it replaces, you'll probably not use them as much, if at all. Like, sorry to say, like, I love VLOOKUP is what made me fall in love with Excel to begin with. But I've virtually stopped using it because XLOOKUP takes away the needing to figure out so many things and trying not to break the source data, because then your file will get messy, your return values will be all wrong. Yeah, privacy. Okay, yeah, I'm seeing it seems to be a recurring concern, privacy for some people. So hopefully Excel will be able to address that and make everyone feel secure, like upgrade, you know, the security of the platform. But maybe I can ask, is there a reason that you haven't switched to 365? Let's see if the same thing was what was holding me back. What, for those of you who have not switched to 365, is there anything in particular that's holding you back, or is it the same privacy concern?
We're expecting some replies in the chat. Yeah.
Oh, I just saw something that Martin had for his solution. So too many users. Yes. So I still have this kind of in the back of my mind. I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, so that's why I haven't been saying your name. I'm so sorry. Is it Grain? I'm not sure of the origin of the name, so I'm sure I'm making a mess. But yeah, I did have this concern that, okay, so now I'm going to be paying for Excel over and over and over. Whereas if I had a lifetime purchase, if I made a lifetime purchase, I just buy another one when I'm ready. Like, I'm not forced. So, rhymes with Tanya. Grania. All right. I'd love to know the origin of this name. It's Irish. Okay, cool. I learned something today. Great. So yeah, I feel like, and I've seen arguments for and against, people justifying, you know, Excel, saying that there's so much support provided and the upgrades come out every so often, and that's all well and good, except that if you're not a user who needs that many upgrades, then it's hard to justify. So that's the other side of that argument. There are people who, yeah, they need to always have the latest version, but then I don't think that applies to the majority of users. And I feel like that's a hurdle that Microsoft will have to overcome soon. People who still don't feel that they need the latest version at every, on any given day. So maybe they'll come up with a solution for those who are still hesitant to switch to 365. Let's see. All right, so maybe I had another file that I wanted to share with, because I just wanted to kind of take a walk around the room to find out how many people were still on the old version.
Claudia, I think you're getting my voice.
Yep, for us, sorry.
Yeah, with the privacy, what I would like to point it out over here, that means if you are keeping it on your own cloud, if you are having it on your own OneDrive, it's very hard for somebody, to take your file until, as it is mentioned in the chat, if it has been shared accidentally to somebody, yes, then yes, it can happen. But the data stays secured, it is encrypted. You can have two-factor authentications so that somebody can't access your. And the most important thing, I actually in the meetup, when we were discussing last time, the most important thing to take care about is your system, from where you're logging in. You have to always log in on your trusted devices. That's the thumb rule. You should always remember that your trusted device, so you can trust it, what you have installed, and don't buy cracks or patches for such a great application what Microsoft is making. Your privacy is nothing, it's not more than the cost of the software application what you're buying it. So avoid putting cracks, because you don't know what is running behind the code that can really seriously damage your system. Somebody can easily give a hacker to access. So say no to the piracies and make sure that you get the genuine copy. And yeah, that's what I wanted to point it out on the privacy.
Yeah, all very good points. Thank you so much, Faraz. You're speaking from a place of knowledge and experience, so I really appreciate that. And these are considerations that we all need to bear in mind. All right, so since a few people shared that they might still need to get a little more familiar, I just wanted to point out a few things. So let me share from my presentation again, for those who are still on the fence of whether they should be switching or not. So let me just get here. Just a moment. All right. So some of the differences between dynamic array formulas and as we might say, legacy formulas, is that they automatically spill, as you've seen before. So all we need to do is to enter into one cell. If the reference is made to multiple cells, or if the result can be multiple cells, then Excel will do it, as opposed to the old system, where it's basically one formula, one cell. It automatically returns multiple values, and the results will update whether the source data expands or contracts or changes in any way. So CSE will soon be a thing of the past. I suppose when Microsoft stops supporting the older or traditional versions, then there will be no more need for CSE entries. And as you've seen, we have less of a need to copy and paste formulas. You saw in the example with the XLOOKUP that instead of just making reference to one value and then copying the rows below, we could make reference to look up the entire column of values and just make the return array the matching column, and then we'd get that as our spill. Dynamic arrays obviously also change the way that we process current formulas, things like COUNTIF and SUMIF. You might have seen so many of these demos on YouTube before, so I don't think I need to share that with you. The caveats, of course, you need Excel 365 or later. The formulas don't work in Excel tables. Now, I wonder if anyone can share with me if there's a logic behind that. Can anyone tell me why the formulas, the new formulas were not built, or spills weren't built to work in Excel tables? If anyone has any inside info, because I don't, and I'm a little perplexed about that. Is it that it's just too difficult to make it work and maybe they're working on it? I'll wait for a minute or two to see if anyone knows. Do you know what I mean? So within an Excel table, you can't actually use an X lookup, or you can't use a filter function, or you can't use any formula that spills the results.
Can I say something, Claudia? Do you hear me? What?
Sure, Elgar, go ahead.
What I would like to tell is that, yes, this is one of the limitations of new
I have
dynamic
really
functions.
bad internet where I am. Okay, so table sizes are dynamic, then the formula, right. So I wondered if maybe this is just something that's too difficult to program at this time, and maybe we can look out for this in the future, because it seems like a really unfortunate, yeah. So for now, it's a limitation. Let's keep our fingers crossed that it will be an enhancement in the future. All right, so I'm going back here. Of course, if your output area is not empty, then you'll get an error. Excel will tell you. But fortunately, you can just click on that little error flag, the trace error flag, and you can select the option to clear whatever obstructing cells there are. Sometimes it's just a space character that's in your cell. And of course, Excel reads it as a character. So it says, I can't display the results because one of your cells isn't empty. And in the same way as CSE formulas, you can't edit the formula from the spilled result. You can only edit formulas that are in the first row, the one where the formula was entered in the first place. All right, so there are several functions. We saw a few demonstrated today, but there are, I believe, eight in total. So we did demonstrate the filter function, and here's the syntax. Rand array gives us a random array, and all the arguments are optional. So if you default, it defaults everything to 1, basically. And there's the sequence function, very useful. You can use it to do things mostly, like I've been using it to do calendar type requests. So anything that has to do with a schedule, I tend to use sequence. And we saw a version of sort. There is sort and sort by. Sort by is a little more advanced than sort, because you can sort it by an array that's not in the current array that you'll be displaying from. And of course, there's the unique. That's got to be one of the most heavily used one. And XLOOKUP. Well, I'm sure that it'll be these three. It'll either be filter, unique, or XLOOKUP that you'll probably use first for those of you who have not yet attempted to use dynamic arrays. And there's XMatch, which kind of replaces or will replace match. With Excel 365, you'll also get access to the let function and the Lambda functions. Lambda is really, really cool for those of you who haven't yet experimented. We saw the use of the spill range operator. That refers to the entire output range. And the implicit operator, the implicit intersection, that refers to the same row. So in table syntax, we might have seen this before, where Excel would have said, okay, if you're referring to the item that's in this row, then Excel places that @ symbol. We now get to use the @ symbol to force Excel to return a single output. So let me show you an example. We didn't do one, but let me just stop sharing this screen and share with you my Excel screen once again. Let me use this file that I'd used for another presentation. So here, almost everything here is dynamic arrays, and when we combine them, we get to do amazing stuff. So by putting two together, I'm able to not only get the unique team names from this database. So this is our database. We have all the names of the agents in our contact center, the names of the teams that they're on, and whatever training that they've done, as well as the dates that they did that training. So from this database, we're able to do lots of statistics. So this is just giving you a little insight into my life when I was at an airline contact center. And for a time, I was the performance manager, so the workforce performance manager. And we used stuff like this to, build statistics and kind of figure out what direction we would go, what agents needed training based on their performance, and what teams were most productive, things like that. And we'd also use this for incentives. So here, we are able to just extract the unique values from all the agents here by the teams that they're on. All right, so this came up with 6 teams, and then we were able to sort them alphabetically. So the sort function says, okay, what do you want to sort? This array. So once we extracted this, so the unique list of team names, that became our array that we wanted to sort. And the sort index 1, meaning we wanted to sort it on the first column. And the sort order 1, meaning sorted by in ascending order. And by column false. So now we have this alphabetical list here. And here's what we meant by it even changes the way we work with existing formulas. So now we have the count if. We want to see how many team members are in each team. And this is pretty cool that we could just say, okay, count if the name of this table was database. All right, this was a table name. So we're saying this table name here, we want you to look at the team name range. So that's the second column that we saw. And here's the criteria, whatever the spill is here. So really, it's the same as saying A3 to A8. So it wants you to count how many people are in each one. So it changes even the way the old formulas work. So that minimizes the need to copy and paste this formula, dragging it down to the end, and so on. All right, so to use the implicit intersection operator, there, in one of the contact centers that I worked in, we wanted to, so employees, the agents, they would get an incentive based on their performance. I think it was sales, or it might have been something else. But whatever it was, they got an incentive. Oh, no, it wasn't based on sales. It was based on a number of factors. It was, I think, 5 different factors, and they would be ranked and so on. So then we decided that it would further incentivize team leads to get their agents up to scratch if we also gave the team leads a bonus. The problem, of course, was that each team had a different number of employees. So you couldn't say, okay, based on the number of employees. So what we would do is to say, okay, let it be a factor of the number of agents who achieved the bonus. So here we go. let's see. Here we go. So there was a sheet here. Let me unhide that sheet. It was agent incentive sheet, this one. So theoretically, we have these agents, and those with green or with yellow, they got the incentive. They hit either full $100 or half $50. And so we said, okay, let's use that to determine what the team lead will get. So we have $300, let's say for the Capella team. They got a total of $300 in the team's bonus, and there were 16 team members. So how we calculated that was to say, okay, let's divide. Let's take the value here. So the collective bonus divided by the number of team members. So now the team lead is going to get an average of what their team members, of what it would work out to be. And so if we wanted to sort that by the bonus that the team lead got, we just sorted. We changed the index here, the sort index. So now we're sorting by the fourth column, and we're sorting in reverse order, so the highest first. If I just wanted to find out which team was the highest, which team lead will get the most, all I needed to do was to include this one. And that would effectively remove, so it would force the value to only, it would force Excel to only return a single value. So that's how the implicit operator works. Let's see what else is on this. All right, here we are. Now with the implicit intersection operator, Excel may automatically generate that @ sign. So if you have recently changed over to Excel 365 and you're still sharing workbooks with folks who are not yet on 365, Excel may automatically generate the @ symbol for those workbooks that are created in the pre-dynamic Excel. So you'll get to see that, okay, only one output is here, but if you remove that, you may see, because you have the environment that would allow you to see multiple values. Of course, if you share it back to that workbook, it will appear to them as a CSE formula, so they will see the curly brackets around it. So if you remove an @ symbol, which was automatically generated by Excel, I'm just repeating that for those who are hearing it for the first time, and it's opened in an older version of Excel, what they will see is it will appear as a CSE formula. All right, so that was the end of that presentation. All right. What did Martin say? I hope mine spills out of my pockets. All right, so I'm just going through the items that are here. All right. Yep, I get that, Eric, that many, and I agree with IT departments, like you don't want to do anything that's going to lead to instability. I hesitate to say, but it's absolutely true. I'm usually one of the late adapters to anything. If I'm on a platform that's working fairly well and I don't have any major complaints, I tend to stay on it until the kinks are ironed out. So I'm usually the last to switch over for upgrades. It's a little embarrassing to admit that publicly, but that's my reason. And I feel justified. I just know that many people don't agree with me. Table sizes are dynamic. Yeah, we went that. Okay. Okay, someone mentioned, is this Ilgar? Yeah, the result done by dynamic functions can't be used in Power Query. Thanks for pointing that out, Ilgar. I think in time, many of these functionalities will be integrated, but we just need to be patient. I mean, we were patient with so many other things that took Microsoft a pretty long time to do, but they've done it. I think there are priorities, right? All right. Tables equal database, one row equals one record. This doesn't lend itself to dynamic arrays. Yeah. You know what? Like, I'm sorry, because I'm not a programmer, so I'm not speaking from a place of this kind of experience, but I feel like a lot of things that we thought were impossible in the past, they were impossible if we're using a particular methodology or way of thinking or way of programming. But just as in any field, in the medical field, in any kind of field, there are always discoveries that may be stepping stones for something that we would never have imagined. So I believe somewhere down the line, some of these things that seem to be really difficult now, but that are, if people want it badly enough, someone is probably already working on it. Okay. Ilgar made a point here that XLOOKUP and XMatch are not included by dynamic functions. Can you explain that to me, Ilgar? I hope I can hear what you're saying, because I'm only intermittently hearing what folks are saying, unfortunately.
Hello. Do you hear me or not?
Yes, Elgar, we can hear you. Please go on.
You can hear me, but Claudia not always. I'm sorry.
No, there is a latency, you know, because even when I'm speaking, she's hearing it a little late.
But I think she hears you. So I'm talking to you and you transfer to her. Okay?
I heard that. I heard nothing else, Ilgar, but I heard that.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Recently, I read some articles related to dynamic arrays, yes, and I got information about the limitations of dynamic array functions, yes, and just what I do. And I got the information that although the engine of XLOOKUP and XMatch is the same with the new dynamic functions, but these functions are not included by new dynamic functions. So the number of dynamic functions is 6, right? A unique, filter, sort, by random and sequence. Although XMatch and XLOOKUP do the same, but they are not included, or they are not covered by this group. I don't know the reason why, but it was written in this way. So, so I just wanted to get your opinion, actually. That's why I just wrote there.
Well, I would love to hear what their sort of definition of inclusion, because the behavior is the exact same, as you pointed out, Ilgar. The behavior is the same. It does spilling. It's not available in 2019 version. I know this because I had 2019 up to early this year. Sorry, for us. Up to early this year.
And one more point I would like to tell you is that while I was attending Slovenian Excel Days event, it has been taking place in 2018. Excel guys or Excel gurus were telling that it's going to be used, say, in 2019 version of Excel. But according to the article that I read recently, it was saying that new dynamic functions can only be used in Excel Online and in Office subscription version and in 2021. So is that true that these functions are not available in 2019 version of Excel?
It is absolutely true. It's absolutely true. I learned that the hard way because, like you, I thought XLOOKUP would be available in the 2019 version, but it was not. So I had to do a class for that, and I didn't have it. But as it turned out, they were really cool. I used Excel Online, and it was no problem. But it's not in the 2019 version, that's for sure. All right, so that about concludes my presentation for today. As I mentioned, I envision this as a facilitation of a discussion on dynamic arrays. There are lots of things that we still are a little unclear about. There are lots of things that we still want, and there are things that are on our wish list for dynamic arrays. But I think all in all, the Microsoft team has worked really, really hard to get us something where we minimize the learning curve to do certain things and making our jobs as instructors a little bit easier to explain to our learners how to go about getting certain things done and to get people more into Excel, because I know that some people who are really advanced don't like Excel because it's, people complain that it's not as robust, and people who are new to Excel think it's too advanced. So it's a turnoff. I feel like this is that middle ground where we're at now, is that middle ground that makes it comfortable. It's just easy enough for people to get into it and to understand it. I know I have a 19-year-old and she doesn't want to hear anything about Excel. It's so embarrassing as her mother. She doesn't want to hear it because she thinks it's too complicated, right? But this has made it a lot easier to get her warmed up to the idea. It's very sad. She's an artsy type. She's not interested in Excel at all. But it makes it easier to do that transition. And at the same time, there are features now that make it a little more robust for those who want to do things that are a little more complicated. So I'll go silent for now. And for us, I hand over back to you.
Great. Thank you, Claudia. Thank you for sharing this great knowledge, that we have. I think you're able to hear me. Am I audible? Because I don't know, I am facing some hanging issue on my system as well over here. If somebody can tell me, they can hear me.
Yes, what, can you repeat that? I missed that.
Yeah, I said even I'm having some issues and some technical difficulty with my system over here. So I was not able to hear you, but it was a great session, Claudia. Wonderful, thank you for sharing that dynamic arrays. We really interested to know that how that chart stuff work, and and by the way, Claudia, I think you also had a session. I believe you have some Go Skills courses also, right? You can just drop them to me, and I can just share it with all of my
absolutely
friends over here. So they can also go and enroll for Claudia courses. Make sure that you go and comment it also on that. And wonderful, it was really wonderful. And at some point, I just mentioned when you're mentioning about your daughter, 19 years, and she's not loving Excel, and she hears Excel. Trust my words, at some point she'll start loving Excel.
I think so.
Excel, yeah, because it is a tool that people underestimate the power of it, and when they really know the power, they wanted to learn, and people are hungry and they want to learn more and more and more about Excel.
Yeah.
And as we are going to end the live session from the YouTube, we'll be still available on the Zoom, my friends. Those are here also on Zoom. You can stay back. You can have more chat with Claudia. But any last words, Claudia? I always ask my speakers, to give some nice last words. Anything. It could be a quote or anything.
Yes, well, thank you. Well, first, let me start by saying thank you so much for the opportunity to meet up with your group here, the Saudi Arabia Meetup. And it's a really great platform to meet people who are like-minded and who are interested in learning the same things that I'm interested in. And if anyone wants to follow me, let me just share here on the screen. Here we go. So here below my name, you will see, you can follow me on LinkedIn, Claudia Buckley, MBA, or on Twitter. I have a teeny tiny following. I just started my Twitter account. I have a really small following on Twitter, but I'm always available on LinkedIn. If you send me a message, I'll absolutely answer. That's how Faraz and I met up, and that's how Ilgar and I met up. And it's been great. I've been so grateful to you both for introducing me to this wonderful community. And Faraz mentioned that I am a trainer with Go Skills. I'm not here representing Go Skills today, but Go Skills is an excellent platform that I found that it has a range of whatever you want to learn about, anything. So, and we're considering expanding into other areas that are non-business too. So you can follow Go Skills there. I personally endorse Go Skills.
Claudia has, sorry for interrupting. Claudia has a very wonderful course, so-called Excel in 1 hour. That's a great course. I have completed this course. And as for Go Skills, we are very thankful to Go Skills because we found you over goskills.com. And by the way, it's a great learning platform. Really, I'm learning and I study a lot of materials on that platform. So I recommend to everybody.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Elgar.
you. Okay, thank you.
And by the way, Elgar, he runs his meetups also for Baku. So you can also go and check Mr. Elgar meetup. So thank you, Claudia. And we'll be signing out from the YouTube. Thank you, my friends, for joining today. And see you soon in the next meetup, which is going to be on 24th of November. Okay. Power apps with the versus Excel formulas, See you. Take care. Bye. Signing off from YouTube.